your weekly horoscope with Jerry and Matt.
Audio Jungle.
Hey, good evening, horror fans. Welcome to another edition of the Weekly Horoscope. Happy Thanksgiving Eve as we sit here the night before Thanksgiving, and we have a lot to be thankful for, Matt, in particular. Congratulations on this being our 50th episode. So that's something to be thankful for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. It's been a fun year.
Absolutely. One of the things we like to do is we kind of use the calendar as kind of a motivation for our categories. And, Mother's Day, we'll look at movies around that kind of topic. Here on Thanksgiving, we found a very weak lot of movies to draw from. With the release of the Eli Roth film Thanksgiving, maybe that can be corrected going forward. But prior to that movie, there's not a deep well of Thanksgiving movies, are there?
Yeah, I thought the same exact thing. You'd think it'd be a great topic for horror movies because it's really a time of expressing gratitude and being with your friends and family, and you can really throw that on top of its head and have a fun horror movie. But you just don't see a lot of them.
Yeah, and we talked about in the past. We've looked at home invasions where they take a place of comfort, and last week we looked at families, which again is typically a place of comfort, but the families we looked at were not very comforting as they were homicidal and had all kinds of issues. But I think that common theme of take something comfortable and happy and turn it on its head would apply perfectly here. But like you said, it really hasn't been done until the brand new movie that we haven't had a chance to check out yet.
Yeah, and I think that's one reason it was a good idea for us to run the family frights back to back with Thanksgiving, because I knew we'd kind of run into that problem, so it was fun to just kind of merge those two week to week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, our first movie in this category, and again, it's a bit of a stretch because this takes place over the Thanksgiving break, and particularly applies to a student that is released from school for that time. But other than it taking place over the Thanksgiving break, there really isn't a Thanksgiving tie-in. But our first film is Escape Room from 2019, directed by Adam Robitel. And I had seen this movie before, but it was fun checking it out again. What's your thoughts on this film?
Yeah, I saw this movie when it came out a couple years back. And to me, it was just a fun PG-13 version of Saw, kind of without or Cube. It's kind of like Cube, kind of like Saw. It's got kind of all those same tropes and the different escape rooms they have to do. And I thought that this could have been a pretty good series. I thought they could have made a couple, maybe not 10 of them, but maybe had like a trilogy of 3 of them, and kind of explored what was going on with the character at the company at the end that was doing all this. And I don't think we ever got a second one.
That we did get a second one. There was Escape Room Tournament of Champions.
I didn't even know that.
But I haven't seen it, and I don't know very little about it, and it didn't sound like it was a direct continuation, which this one kind of opens itself up to. Funny thing, I agree with everything you said. My notes said the exact same thing. It's like a PG-13, almost Saw-like movie. But for me, I reviewed it last night after I had just got done leaving an escape room. So
nice.
It was a really cool tie-in for me, and shout out to the Escape Vault at Market Commons in Myrtle Beach. We did the Hannibal serial killer escape room, and it was very cool. So that was cool to do an escape room and come home and watch a movie about an escape room. The movie starts out with an unknown man scrambling through. He falls through the ceiling, and he's in a collapsing escape room. The walls are closing in, bookcases are falling over, and he's trying to get a code on the wall to work, and he can't get it, and it appears he's going to be crushed. And then it cuts.
Yeah, I always find those rooms I don't know why, but that's like the rooms that close in on themselves or any kind of trash compactor like thing always kind of I feel like that'd be one of the worst ways to die, just like slowly having your body compressed and popped.
Yeah, and the tension and trauma of just watching it happen.
The claustrophobia. Yeah, it's not like getting your head cut off or something like that's quick. It's like it's just slowly happening. You always feel like those are always brutal scenes.
Then we cut to it's Thanksgiving break, as we mentioned, and we see Zoe as a shy physics student, Jason is a wealthy fund manager, and Ben is a stock boy who's denied a promotion, and they all get gifted a black box that is a puzzle, not quite Hellraiser-ish in its puzzling box nature.
I
But
said the same thing in my notes. Yeah, I was like, it's the PG-13 version of that too.
yeah, it's a smooth black, not smooth, but it's a flat black box, almost
The
reptilian
Rubik's Cube.
skin. But they all figure out how to
Yeah.
get it open, and inside is an invitation to an escape room with a $10,000 prize. So that's our quick setup for getting there.
Yeah.
Once they arrive there, there's a few other characters. Mike is a truck driver. Amanda is a war veteran, and Danny is a nerdy escape room enthusiast. So he's kind of the go-to guy to tell everybody how this stuff works.
One thing I didn't understand about this movie is why they're all so mean to Danny. He did nothing wrong.
Yeah. Well, one of my notes says exactly that. Other than Zoe, none of the characters are very likable.
Actually, I've said the same thing. I don't think, they're all just kind of like mean to each other, which is weird to me because when you're writing a movie like this, you want to root for the characters to get out, but like half of them, I just wanted them to die.
Yeah.
Like, but they just made but I think they wrote them in intentionally like that, but they're just terrible people, especially Jason. He's the worst.
He's clearly the worst, but you look at Ben, and we'll learn more about these characters as we go, but I found it very telling that Ben is a guy who we find ourselves rooting for, but when you find out Ben's background, he's not a guy you want to root for.
Right. Yeah. So they kind of like, put that on its head. They turned it up on its head. They made all the characters really unlikable, which was interesting.
Ben goes to go outside for a smoke. He's a chain smoker, and the handle of the door comes off. They're in kind of like a waiting room, and underneath the handle is revealed a dial. And they realize, particularly Danny realizes, the game has started. And this room they're in, where they thought they were just waiting to meet somebody and get started, they're actually going.
And he's just real whimsical the whole time, like, "Oh, this is fun and immersive." It's like, no, that's actual heat coming out of the walls, guy.
He's like, yeah, I'm going through the most fun experience ever with the worst people ever.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good line because that's true. It's like, okay, I think they really did write them terrible on purpose because they even.
Yeah. So they're looking for clues.
It's just a weird choice.
Yeah, they're looking for clues all around the room, and they find a handle inside the book Fahrenheit 451. So Zoe seems to be the one who figures out a lot of clues. She puts the handle on and turns the dial that looks like an oven dial, and she turns it to 451. And sure enough, the room heats up like the inside of an oven. They see the ceiling is, bright orange filaments, and it comes on, and you can see it's getting hot in there quick. Everything they try to do to fix it adds another layer of heat. More heat lamps come on, fans start blowing more hot air in.
There's like layers. It's like an onion. They're peeling back like worse and worse layers. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, they do a good job of, it looks hot in there.
Yeah, and they're all sweating profusely, and they're sweating through their clothes. They did a good job making it look like that.
Zoe figures out that if you put pressure on the coasters on the coffee table in the middle, they push down, it opens up an entranceway to an air duct that they can crawl out of. So they're holding down the things, and people are crawling in. Jason goes first. Amanda goes, and she starts freaking out, and we find out she was actually burned in an IED attack in Iraq.
Yeah, she was a single lone survivor.
So it's kind of triggering for her. And they're running out of hands to hold all the coasters down so everybody can go in. So they figure out, they got to fill up cups, and they run out of water. And luckily Ben has a flask with just enough liquid to dump in there to meet the weight requirements, and they all take off down the shaft just as the room completely incinerates.
I would have just taken off my shirt that was soaked in sweat and just shoved it in the cup.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like they had options, but time was short.
Yeah, they're all freaking out. I'd be freaking out too. Yeah.
So they get into the next room, which looks like a winter log cabin, and there are deer head on, not head, but actually like skulls and antlers on the wall.
Yep.
and they're looking for a 7-word, a 7-letter name to activate the lock to get them out. And Ben figures out that it's Rudolph because he's doing flashbacks, and we find out Ben had a car accident. Well, he was either drunk or high or both, and killed all the people in the car. And that was the song on the radio when it was going on. So that was my point about Ben being a survivor. But, what he did was just awful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they kind of even say it later on in the movie. It's like, don't get so on your high horse, Ben. It's like you could have taken a cab, but you just wanted to drink and drive with your friends, and you killed them all.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge advocate of that. Like I'm a big, like, I don't like drinking and driving. You have one beer, don't even touch the keys. Like I'm huge on that. So I understand. There's a lot of people out there that it's a lot of people have been affected by that.
Yeah, it's a very selfish and foolish act.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're finding out, little tidbits about each character. So they use the code Rudolph, and they get outside, and the cabin shuts behind them and latches. They can't get back in, and they are what appears to be a frozen exterior. They're inside of a big building, but somehow they've replicated this frozen outdoors with snow, with a frozen lake that they're on. And now they went from being really, really hot, and everybody threw off their jackets and outer layers, and now they're freezing.
Yeah, and Danny bumps into this invisible wall, and this part was funny because they all laugh at him. But I'm like, instead of laughing at him, aren't you guys fascinated with why there's an invisible wall there? You know what I mean? Like it's like that was more in my mind. I was like, wait, what is that? It's like they ignore it and just keep laughing. Danny's still convinced that it's a simulation. He's like, guys, it's just a simulation. And then all of the these vents open, and they start like pouring in all this like cold exhaust, and it just starts to get really, really cold immediately.
Yeah, it's a real high level simulation, which is proven by the false wall.
Mm-hmm.
They do find one jacket, and they start sharing it all as they're all freezing. And they also find a fishing pole and a hole cut in the ice. And Zoe finds a clue again, and she reaches into a stuffed polar bear's mouth and pulls out a magnet that hooks to the bottom of the hook of the fishing pole. So they lower it down into the hole, and they pull out a key to the door, the only way out, and the key is frozen inside of a block of ice, which I thought was a real cool twist to put on them.
It kind of had a soft feel to it, like the key is in something else. You have to do something to get it. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. They have to somehow use their body heat to like melt the ice.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Ben has a lighter, as we know, but when Danny goes to get the lighter from Ben, he falls through the ice, and we see the water underneath the ice, for however this works in this simulation, has a current to it, and it pulls him from the hole. And we see a very traumatic scene with Danny's face. We can see him through the ice, terrified, and he just keeps getting pulled away and away and away, and they can't save him. And ultimately, he's gone.
Yeah, and they see his body just taking off underwater. It's another horrible way to die.
Yeah, and he also had the lighter. So now, even though this group of people is freezing, sharing one coat, they have to get to the key by melting the ice with their body heat, which is another kind of cool, sick twist.
Yeah, and because it's freezing. So what are you gonna do? Take your clothes off in the freezing and like rub your belly against this thing?
Yeah. There's just no good.
You know what I mean? Like trying to hands. But the worst thing is that your hands give off the least heat, right? Like your hands are like one of the first things to get really cold. So that's like the whole thing is just a struggle for them.
For sure. They finally get it, and the key is exposed, and they get through the doorway, and they end up in the next escape room is an upside down bar where parts of the floor periodically start falling away. And it's like a trap door kind of thing, but the whole sections of floor just disappear at a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And Zoe figures she's climbing up, and it's really cool set production design with everything upside down. There's a pool table on the ceiling, and the hanging lights are on the floor, and it's just really, you imagine trying to climb through something like that and how disorienting it would be.
Yeah, just trying to navigate that thing while solving a puzzle because everything's kind of upside down backwards. Yeah, that'd probably be the hardest one.
Zoe is working on a wall puzzle and figures it out when the last of the floor drops. And Amanda is left hanging on a rope. And they try to get to her, but she almost, it seems like she kind of concedes and just says, no, it's okay. And just
Yeah.
falls to her death.
Yeah, I don't think she wanted anyone else to sacrifice themselves to save her, and she didn't want to be responsible for any more death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It like she felt like she had escaped her fate at one point and was due.
Yeah, yeah. So
Almost
she's like,
like a
listen,
Final Destination type of motif.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
The next room they get to is like a hospital. It's like a ward in a hospital, and there's a bed with a file on each of them. And we learn as we've been piecing together that they all survived tragedies. They were the sole survival of these different tragic circumstances. And these files had explicit details, everything about them, which is kind of crazy. They find an EKG machine.
Yeah.
And they need to register a certain heart rate to let them out, or gas is going to be released. So Jason is working on this. He's trying to get the right number. They think maybe their heart rate isn't high enough. They got to get it elevated to ring the bell and make the door open. But Zoe's not even participating. She's going around just smashing all the cameras.
Yeah, she goes back to her quantum theory that she learned in school earlier about how like atoms won't change if they're being observed. So she's like, they can't really dictate the rest of this maze on us if we knock out all the cameras, and then we can kind of assimilate some kind of control.
Yep. So she's not really participating, and unfortunately, she's been the one who figured most everything out at this point. Mm-hmm. So Jason tries putting the shock paddles on Mike, thinking the heart rate needs to be higher to activate the door, and he does it, and Mike dies. He shocks him too much.
Flatlines him.
Yeah. He flatlines him. Yeah.
That's what happens when you get hit with the defibrillator.
Yeah, when you don't need it.
Yeah.
He ends up putting the EKG on himself, and the poison is released. And as he's taking in the initial doses of the poison, his heart rate drops low enough to trigger the exit.
And, you know what? I didn't put that together because I was like, how did he get?
Well, they were.
It's so low so fast. It's the poison. Okay, I get it. That actually makes perfect sense. Right.
Well, I didn't catch that. Yeah, they kept thinking they needed to register a higher number when in fact they needed to register a lower number. But
so they kind of needed the gas to go off in order for them to, and then after that, it's like hurry up and get out. Oh, I see.
Or they'll go into a deep state of Zen or something. But
yeah.
Well, they had to have it hooked to them at the time the gas went off, or it would have never worked. But so Jason and Ben get out at this point. Zoe, who is solely focused on smashing the cameras, we see her on the ground, succumbing to the poison.
Yeah, I didn't know why she stayed back. Why didn't she just run in there?
Well,
I know that she has a plan later on, and I think it might have been on purpose, but I don't know why she didn't just chase after them.
I think it was on purpose. But so they're out, and it's just Jason and Ben left. And they end up in a psychedelic room where they're immediately exposed to high levels of hallucinogens, and there's strobe lights, and there's like spiral shapes, and they're all spinning, and it's just
it looks like a 90s MTV, like back when they used to have those music videos. They'd have some of those like 90s alternative music videos. It kind of just reminded me of something like that. They don't make stuff like that anymore, so the younger generation probably has no idea what I'm talking about.
It was very trippy, very
yeah.
And they're trying
to Soundgarden type stuff,
Yeah, they're trying to think straight while in this state, and they find that there is an antidote to the hallucinogen, but there's only one, and it's in a shot. You have a syringe. You have to give yourself a shot in the muscle, and they end up fighting over it. And Jason hurts Ben's leg, but Ben somehow gets control of him, and he gets the shot. He gives himself the shot, and now he can think straight and think clear. And he gets out of there, and he falls into the room, and it's the exact scene where we saw at the beginning, where the man falls into the room and the walls start closing in.
Yeah, and then he ends up he ends up grabbing a shield and protects and jumps in the fireplace, which is the only place he could hide, and protects himself from the fire that's in there with the shield, which I thought was cool. And then as the room closes completely, there's that one little crevice in the fireplace where he's hiding, and then he escapes.
Yeah. So at the beginning, we thought the guy was doomed. Now we know who he is, and we know he figured out a way to survive, which was cool. It was good thinking. Meanwhile, Zoe, a couple workers come in to remove Zoe's body, but we find out she has been breathing out of an oxygen mask, and no one knew it because they couldn't see because she broke all the cameras, and she's playing dead. And when they come in, she knocks both of the workers out. I don't know if she kills them. She hits them in the back of the head with a metal pole.
Yeah,
And she's out of there. And her theory of exerting a little bit of control worked to that degree because they assume they're going in there to pick up a dead body.
yeah, and it's ho ho ho. Now I have a gun.
So yeah, so when Ben makes it out, he meets the game master, who explains to him that it's a recorded drama for rich people who pay to watch these battles unfold, and they use different categories. One year they do college athletes, and they go through all these different criteria. But this year was sole survivors.
Yeah.
But instead of the promised $10,000 prize,
Which I thought that was, I thought they could have had some. Yeah, I thought they could have had some kind of series out of this with that. Like, oh, different themes. That's pretty cool. But like I said, I never even heard that they made a second one. The first time I'm even hearing about it.
Yeah, it was a blip on the radar, and I've not seen it. But yeah, it was. We'll talk at the end here. But the instead of giving him the $10,000 prize, you can't have any witnesses to report back about what they're doing. So he tries to kill Ben. He wraps a wire around his throat from behind, and he's choking him out. But Zoe shows up and shoots him, shoots the game master, who doesn't die. And
his face now appears on the game board, right?
Yes.
It's kind of funny, like it's live,
They're like, oh, now there's more players, including you, game master. It was kind of funny.
You were going to be part of this all along if they got out. Yeah.
So he starts fighting back against Zoe. And Ben finally smashes the man in the head and picks up the gun and just shoots him. Bang, bang, bang. Clearly dead at this point. They leave. Ben goes to the hospital, and the police come and talk to Zoe. They bring her back to the location, and there's no sign that any of this happened. It looks like an abandoned building.
Yep, like bums were living there. Yeah.
Yep. It makes her seem completely crazy. And as time goes on, she finds articles of scenarios how all the people died. They
conveniently made up like Amanda was out hiking and she died.
Yeah, she fell, and Danny drowned at at a swimming hole, or all these news stories to explain away the death of these people. So she starts accumulating all this information, and now it's a little while later. Ben is healed up. They meet up, and she has coordinates to a location in Manhattan where she knows where the games people are, and she wants to go check it out and stop them.
And she's like, I got plane tickets.
Yeah, I got plane tickets. And the what I thought was really cool is the end scene it's a plane crash scenario. And then we find out it's the planning and demoing of a real plane crash scenario that they're setting up for Zoe and Ben to experience on the flight to New York.
Which I thought was like one of the coolest parts of the movie. I loved it. I thought that was one of the really unique things you don't see in other movies. I was like, all right, this is really cool that they're gonna like show us the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, no, I thought so too. It was
and how it's done.
Yeah, it was an interesting twist. I thought that was one of the better scenes. That it implies the level of power this organization has. Just that they're able to pull off something like that. In this movie, I wouldn't consider this a classic or a great film, but I think the scenarios and the challenges and the escape rooms are interesting enough to hold your attention. The acting is good. There's no point that you'd point to it and say that's really cheesy, that's really poorly done. It's a good enough movie that I think a sequel, a good sequel, would be in order. And again, I haven't seen the sequel, so I don't know if it fits the bill or not.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said 100%. I think the concept of this movie is awesome. It's enjoyable. It's fun to watch. It's of all the faults that the movie has. I mean, we can nitpick about certain things, but overall experience, it's a fun movie. I've seen it multiple times now. It's a great Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah, and we, again, it's very loosely a Thanksgiving movie. It takes place
Yeah,
over the Thanksgiving break, but
we only have so many of them, right?
there wasn't a lot to pick. We weren't going to
Right.
do Poultrygeist.
Or Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I
what's
wasn't
out there
gonna.
is just it's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
real poor.
yeah. It's beyond bad. So, I mean, like you said, Eli Roth has this new movie that just came out. I haven't had a chance to see it this week, so we couldn't do it. I know you didn't either. So, but hopefully, I hear great things.
Yeah, the reviews are good, and hopefully that translates to a higher quality Thanksgiving horror movies going forward.
Yeah, I think we'll have some.
All right, our second Thanksgiving horror film is called Black Friday from 2021, directed by Casey Tebow. And this movie falls very firmly in the horror comedy camp with a huge emphasis on the comedy. It definitely doesn't take itself too seriously. It's a silly movie, but it's a fun little movie.
Yeah, it's fun. What makes this movie really fun is Bruce Campbell's in it. I mean, he kind of, to me, steals the show with how ridiculous of the character he plays. He looks like John Cleese for some reason. Um, but I mean, yeah, the movie's just funny. It's just this fun play on like zombie style movie with cool practical effects that kind of just makes like comedic has like a comedic stance on like corporate and consumer greed and like underpaid, underappreciated, abused employees in retail. So it kind of just has fun with that. It takes a serious topic, has fun with it, and it's just really ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a huge Bruce Campbell fan, as you know, and just even in a movie like this, when the man is on the screen, I'm just drawn to him.
Yeah, he steals scenes even when he's not the main person. He just has that effect.
Even when he's being a goofball, he just oozes charisma, and you can't help but look at him. So, agree, he's the highlight of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And his lines just made me laugh. I don't know. He brings the movie to a next level. And I'm sure he brings a lot of his experience on set and helped with a lot of things. I mean, I know he's known to be one of those guys.
Yeah, yeah. And this movie is like, I was thinking about this and let's say the acting was all very good. Obviously, Bruce is Bruce,
Yep.
but none of the actors, were bad in my opinion. The effects were pretty straightforward. There wasn't a ton of them, and I'm thinking this is the kind of movie if you had a crew like with and 25 grand in 2 weeks, this is the kind of movie you'd pound out.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got a lot of experience with the actors. You've got Michael J. White, you got Devin Sawyer, and then you have Bruce Campbell. So you got three characters right there, like three actors right there with just tons of experience.
Yeah. The movie starts with Monty setting up for the Black Friday sale when a pulsy, veining blob-like thing crashes through the ceiling and lands in the middle of the floor. And it extends spits like a goo onto him and turns him into a mutated monster who attacks other workers.
Yeah, it's almost like I was like a frog's tongue, how it uses like it just kind of comes out.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I was trying to, yeah, it's like an appendage, but kind of like a spit. But yeah, no, that's perfect.
You know those sticky hands that you could fling and they'd stick to stuff?
Then we meet Ken, who is Devon Sawa, as you mentioned from Final Destination fame. He drops his daughters at his ex's house. They don't want to go. It's the stereotypical, mom's mean and they don't like the new husband, and like, and he labels himself as a hero. He says a funny line like, heroes got to work on Thanksgiving, cops, firemen, your dad.
And you don't know at this point what he's doing. I mean, you do from the movie trailer, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like,
yeah.
but like you're watching it like, oh, what does this guy do? And he's like,
Yeah, he's a clerk at a Toys R
At a
Us
at a
ripoff.
Walmart. It's a Walmart, right? It's called Allmart or something like that. Yeah.
He picks up germaphobe Chris on his way to the toy store, and the crew is getting ready. There's a long line outside. The shoppers are banging on the glass, waiting to get in, which I find like super annoying. Would anyone actually do that? Like it says what time they open. You don't
Yeah.
get in sooner by banging on the glass, but they're just being super annoying and just, consumerism
Yeah,
at
there's
an overwhelming pace.
zombie consumerists banging on the doors, right?
Almost, echoes of the of Romero's Dawn of the Dead, where with a commentary on consumerism. Only this isn't that deep.
It's not that deep, but it's there. I mean, it's obvious there. Zombies, mall shopping, Black Friday. It's like it's almost self-explanatory.
So our manager, the store manager, Jonathan Wexler, the great Bruce Campbell, gives his crew a pep talk over the intercom, and then they open the doors. And it's, as we mentioned, it's over the top, crazed consumerism. There's the stereotypical fight over Christmas toys, and I'm always fascinated in the movie. Whenever you are identified as a germaphobe in a movie, you always end up with the grossest jobs through the entire length of the movie.
Yeah, they wanted him to go clean up puke, and then like later when he goes to the puke, it looks like it looks like intestines and stuff like that. I was like, what?
It is the biggest pile of puke you could imagine. There's like matted chunks of hair and all kinds of
spaghetti and
stuff strewn through it, and it's like, oh my God. Of course, the germaphobe has to go deal with it.
You can tell they had fun with the practical effects as much as they could, because if you're a practical effects person, you're trying to do as much as you can in a movie, right? You're like,
Absolutely.
I got a great idea for this.
Yeah. And it's just a ridiculous amount of vomit. A human wouldn't vomit like that and live. So while he's over to do this job, he gets attacked by an infected individual. And protecting himself, he tips over a display and crushes a woman. So we see him in the back where he's kind of like being talked to, and like it seems like he's kind of getting in trouble at work kind of thing. They don't realize they have bigger problems on their hand at this point.
Right. He's like, listen, you guys have to listen to me. And they're like, no, you're under arrest.
Like, yeah, you could have killed her. Like, what are you doing?
He's like, I know, I was trying to. She was attacking me.
and Bruce is, he shoots down any plan of action that, don't call the police. They'll shut us down for 2 hours. Corporate expects me to make sales tonight.
Yeah, he's Mr. Numbers. Yeah, that's all he cares about. He's a heartless, soulless manager.
The new guy, Emmett, gets attacked in the back, but Ken saves him. And now the workers are all nervous, like, geez, maybe something is going on. And this, Jonathan says, no, we can't call the cops. It'll hurt business. Emmett starts foaming blue at the mouth. And Anita, who is, another stereotype, she's the suck up. She's the employee of the month every month, by the rules. Yep. She tells Chris earlier, his shirts come half untucked, and he's like, you can get written up for that,
Yeah, and she's like, we don't call it Black Friday, it's Green Friday, so don't say that around me. Like, she's like super uptight about everything.
Yeah, Christmas and money. Black Friday's racist. Yeah, it's just, it really dives into the ridiculousness. She tries to help him, but again, the frog-like appendage shoots out and tears her throat out. And Emmett is now fully turned into an infected, and he runs out of the back. It's a funny scene. You talk about Bruce and his loyalty to the corporate headquarters. When Emmett starts attacking, the girl Marnie, she picks up a cake and she throws it at him, like, to fend him off. And Jonathan Wexler's extremely upset. He's like, "Oh, corporate bought that cake." It was just such a ridiculous line at the ridiculous time. I couldn't help but laugh.
I think he leans into his character more than anyone in this movie. He has some lines that are just so over the top and stupid. I was laughing. I think this movie's funny.
Yeah, it's more funny than anything, right? If you take it serious, you're being like, "Oh, this isn't The Walking Dead." No, it's not.
No. This is just a ridiculous.
It's closer to Weekend at Bernie's than it is The Walking Dead.
Yeah. It's just a fun comedy horror for Black Friday, and we don't have a lot of those.
Yeah. So they go back out into the store and they find the shoppers are all infected and the place is destroyed, and it's just madness out there. and they kind of split up, and three guys go to try to find a way out, and the two women and Jonathan go into the back, and he's like, I think I need to watch the storeroom, so he cowards out of doing anything.
Yeah.
Ken goes into the men's room, and Jonathan follows him, and they find an infected guy on the toilet, and they kill him using a broken bottle, which
Yeah.
was a cool
And
scene.
he's going to get a stash, and Bruce Campbell is like talking to him about, "Hi, that's not code. You can't do that." Like he's still in character for the manager. He's
Yeah.
like, "Dude, we're being overrun here." Like,
Yeah, he had booze hidden above the tile in the
yeah.
bathroom ceiling, which
So when he's stuck there at work, he can have a drink. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if that's right. Hide my booze in the bathroom, but whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean,
The
where would
bottle
you even...
breaks, and they use it to kill the infected, so it came in useful.
Right.
They all go back out on the floor. The group all is pulled back together, and it's revealed that Jonathan was not giving holiday bonus this year, and was in fact, everyone was kind of waiting, like they're working because they want their holiday bonus. He's not giving bonuses, and in fact, after Black Friday, he's going to do layoffs. And Marnie just punches him, and a police car crashes through the front window, runs over Ruth, who's an older woman, and allows the infected to get back inside. And despite fighting very well, he seems to be the most skilled fighter of the group. Archie is killed. He's overrun.
Yeah, Michael J. White. Yeah. So he's just gone. Yeah.
And he was good character. He was he was funny, and he was the guy who was doing the real fighting.
Yeah, he used the nail gun at one point. He's like, wait, was that the new guy?"
The group goes back into the back room, and they're chased by the new guy Emmett, who's become a fully infected, and Marnie ends up bludgeoning him to death, just bashing him over and over and over. And they don't really show it. Again, I think the budget for the effects on this was very limited.
Yeah,
they don't show a lot, but it is this is also a PG-13 movie. So
that's another good point. This is a PG-13 movie, which I thought they really pushed the limits for PG-13 for some of these scenes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So they're all sitting in the back, and they're all kind of talking about how they came to work there, and you get a little life history on the people who are left, and they're bonding over a pack of sliced turkey, almost poking fun at the Thanksgiving traditions. And the conversation kind of turns a little sour, where they kind of turn on Ken, where Chris is like, well, you're a middle-aged man and you've been working here all these years, and Marnie's like, yeah, you flirt with me and you talk about going out to get pancakes, but you've never asked me on a date, and honestly, you're old enough to be my dad.
Yeah, you're like twice my age, and it kind of like makes him really embarrassed, and yeah, they kind of make him feel bad. They kind of like this. There's starting to become like bitterness amongst the group right after they were just bonding.
And they kind of turned on Ken, who at this point is really our main character that we've identified with.
Right.
When we see the pink blob is growing inside the store, what was once a small thing is now, taking up all the way almost to the ceiling.
There's this Ghostbuster-ish type feel to it, where this big pink thing is growing.
Yep, absolutely. Emmett comes back to life, even though Marnie bashed his skull in 100 times. And Ken fights him and ends up killing him again. But after the fight, he finds a bite on his arm, and he thinks, oh no, I'm infected now. So the rest try to escape through the loading dock and via a delivery truck, but Ken stays behind, thinking he's infected. He doesn't want to hurt the others. The truck gets attacked by a horde outside, and again, these are infected people from this parasitic creature, but it's very zombie-like in its the manner it's passed on, and how the impact it has on people.
And even because even Bruce Campbell's character says, I think that's the mythos. If you get bit, you become one of them. Like he even kind of says it. So it's very meta. Like they're even putting it in there, to let the audience know that's what this is.
Back inside the store, Ken, for some reason, is wearing roller skates and is fighting an infected lady. And that's just a crazy scene. Like, I don't know why he thought it'd be a good idea to be roller skating through.
Yeah,
the
it's
store,
almost like National Lampoon's zombie. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. The group gets out of the truck when they're attacked by the horde, and they make it to the roof of the building, and the infected are trying to come up through. There's like a hatch door,
Yep.
and Jonathan finally steps up, and he starts speaking kindly of his employees and how proud he is of them, and he jumps through the door to take all the infected out and save his employees.
Yep.
Bruce Campbell gets a heroic, noble send off.
Yeah. He's like, I've had enough of the fake smiles, and he kind of, like you said, has this little like triumphant speech, and then just kind of sacrifices.
Yeah. Now the creature he continues to grow, and it actually comes through the roof. Again,
It's like
very
it's Godzilla looking thing.
Yeah, I wrote down as very Cloverfield looking.
Yeah, it's even better. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But it's if you look closely at its body, it's an amalgamation of all the infected shoppers.
It's all because it was consuming them it would consume them and take them. And it's funny. Then Brian at one point says, "I can speak with it. It's a manager thing. You wouldn't understand because it's all the customers." He's like, "I can deal with the ultimate customer. I'm a manager."
So
and
Brian
he steps forward.
And this is after we just found out that that once Jonathan saved him, the other three jump off the roof into a dumpster. Of course, Chris lands in the messiest spot because, being a germaphobe, he would. And it's revealed by Brian that he actually is the one who bit Ken because he thought he was bad news and wanted to get him out of the group.
Thinks he's doing everyone a favor, right? When they find out, they're shocked and they're like, "What do you?" And he's like, "What? Are you?" He just like, "What? You guys just said how much you hate him, and we all just turned on him, didn't we?"
Yeah. So Marty and Chris actually leave to go find. They're going to go find Ken, and then when the creature bursts through, Brian is going to use his customer service experience, as you talked about, because he can reason with them
to slay the monster. Yeah,
and it kind of leans to him and kills him with a flick. Just a
flicks him right into a car.
Flick of his finger just annihilates him, which was so funny that he thought he could, do that. But
I thought that line was funny. There was a lot of good comedy in this movie.
Ken reunites with Marnie and Chris, and at this point, the creature is well outside of the, kind of overwhelming the building. Most of the creatures outside of the building now, and they come up with a plan. Ken is going to distract the creature, and Chris is going to drive a fork truck into it. And it doesn't really work as planned, but the creature ends up shooting out its frog-like tongue appendage and grabbing the fork truck. And Chris has it, full power in reverse. And there's
all
kind
13 horsepower.
Yeah, there's kind of a tug of war in reverse, which doesn't really make sense.
Right. But
if they'd use the tractor trailer or something, maybe there would be horsepower there. But yeah. But at the last minute, he jumps and switches it into forward, and the appendage pulls the fork truck all the way, sticking the forks through its own face.
Yeah, his plant snaps back into his face.
Yeah. So, it stabs itself and it's dying. And our trio has kind of reconciled their differences. They spoke honestly, and now they, at one point they say, "You know what? It's Thanksgiving, and you guys are my family, and we're going to make this happen." So there's kind of a bonding that takes place through their adversity.
Yeah, in the middle of all this.
Yeah, and they get away in a car, and as they're driving away, in the background we see another store and a creature sticking out of the top of that store.
Another Cloverfield type monster.
So it's it gives the implication that the whole world has been overrun by this parasite and this infection, and
it's in every mall across the world.
Yep, every Walmart, every grocery store. Yeah. Again, not a movie you're going to take seriously, but if you're in the frame of mind to get some chuckles out of it, it's a funny look at the consumerism side of, and it's Black Friday, but these guys all have to go to work on Thanksgiving evening to make this happen. So
yeah,
it's a Thanksgiving movie.
It's a Thanksgiving movie because it starts off Thanksgiving and it goes into midnight.
Yeah, absolutely. So not a great horror flick, like I said, more comedy than horror, but a fun movie. And again, you get some Devon Sawa I saw recently at a convention.
That's awesome.
He's a small man.
Yeah,
he's not big in stature.
Yeah, he's probably, I don't know, he's like 5'9", 5'10" or something like that.
I'm only 5'9". He seemed small.
Yeah, they probably he has to stand up on for a lot of his scenes on like a bucket or something.
But heck of a nice guy, and obviously a ton of experience in the industry. Bruce
Yeah.
Campbell, a legend in the industry. Just a fun movie.
Dennis the Bear is actually in the movie that malfunctioning bear. That's Seth Green.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
Oh,
they had
Dower
a
Dennis, they call him.
yeah, Dowd. Yeah, so I mean, there's a ton of experience in this movie. I think they knew what they were doing. They knew they were having a fun, ridiculous movie, and they just did it. The movie doesn't try to take itself seriously at all. It
At all.
knows exactly what it is. It's just kind of a throwback to those fun 80 crazy movies. A lot of them we've reviewed and stuff, and it does a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, a lot of fun. And again, not a ton of movies to pick from for Thanksgiving, but I like our selections. I think for two PG-13 movies, they were enjoyable. They did what they were intended to do, and certainly seen
Yep.
worse movies.
Yeah, if you need some Thanksgiving movies to watch this weekend, check these out.
Absolutely. Well, that is our show for this week. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy 50th episode. Hope everyone has a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next time. We are the Weekly Horoscope.
All right, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, everyone.
Your weekly horoscope with Jerry and Matt.